Hi guys, thank you very much for joining. Welcome back to another episode of Essex Boys Shorts. If you've been following these videos, the Essex Boys Shorts videos, you'll have heard the mention of a red Volkswagen Golf, and you'll also have heard me personally say that I need to sort this and that out, I need to go and check this out and the other, because they would seem that there were some discrepancies. There's a red Volkswagen Golf and it's in Sarah Saunders' possession. Apparently it's broke down, and on the day of the 6th of December, the day of the murders, Sarah and Pat had a massive argument. They had a row about this car. She was pissed off because she had to go around in this car. It kept breaking down, but he was in a nice Mercedes. That's her argument, and that's why she's pissed off. So they have this massive row on the 6th, round at Sarah's mum's house on the afternoon. It's big, it's a massive row, so much so that Tony and Craig have to come and drag Pat out. Once they do that, Pat gets in this red Volkswagen and takes it away. So the discrepancies were then, Sarah later goes on to say that she sold it to Mick Steele. So how did it get from there to there? Well, this is it. This is how. This is what's actually happened. So Pat went round to Sarah's mum's, took it away, took it back to the bungalow, and parked it in the lay-by opposite his bungalow. Then what happened is Sarah went round there, round to the bungalow, got the key from somewhere, and started using it again. So it's back in Sarah's possession, and it all comes from Sarah herself. Tony and Craig dragged him out of my mum's. They took the car away, and that was the last time I saw him. I went back round the bungalow, and the car was parked in the lay-by from where he had taken it away. And basically I went and I got the key. I can't remember where I got the keys from, possibly inside the bungalow or whatever, and just carried on using it. I was pulled up in it, and it didn't have an MOT on it, so I took it. And again, these are just my own thoughts, but for some reason, I don't know what reason this is, but for some reason I'm kind of sensing here that there's something not quite legitimate about what she's saying here, and it could be that the whole thing's fabricated. And I'm thinking that because the more you look through these statements, right at the end of the statements, there's always a tiny quote or a statement, an acknowledgement, and it's usually something along the lines of, I remember that specifically because so and so was happening. Case in point, I think one of the farmer's son's statement says, I remember it was about 5:30 because Star Trek was just starting on the TV. If you go through these statements yourselves, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's usually right at the end. It's like, I remember it was this time because something happened or something was happening. The suspicious gunshot statements, they say, yeah, I remember it was about 12 o'clock because I go to bed at 11:30 and I was awake for about half an hour. It was about midnight. And I don't know why, but it seems that Sarah, for some reason, has planted this row, because it's exaggerated, it's overblown. There was a big row. This was the last time I saw Pat. It was massive. So much so that Tony and Craig had to come and drag him out, and they took the car away. But yeah, just a little bit later, I went and picked the car back up. I can't remember where I got the keys from. Where did she get the key from? That is vital. Might have been in the bungalow, I don't know. She states that was the last time she saw Pat was at her mum's house, so she didn't get it from Pat himself, but she's back in the car now. She's got the car back and everything's back to normal again. Does that make sense? It almost seems to like she has to exaggerate this last time she saw Pat, Tony and Craig, and it was during this massive row. There just doesn't seem to be something quite right there, because this is a car that's broken down, don't forget. The whole point of this is that it keeps breaking down, it's a shit car, and she's arguing with Pat because it keeps breaking down. Pat's come and taken it away, but then she's gone round and picked it back up and started using it again. For some reason, personally, I'm thinking, actually, that may not have happened. None of that may have happened. It just seems a bit of a planted thing there, you know, for the police, specifically for the police. That's where they were. They were at my mum's house, and I remember it because it was a massive row. Anyway, a couple of paragraphs later, after that, she starts talking about going back round and leaving it on the driveway at Pat's. So Pat's been murdered. That was the last time she saw Pat. It's on that day, on the 6th, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon at her mum's house. But she went round, picked this car back up, and then Pat was murdered. And the police, because of this whole investigation, are sniffing about round Pat's. There's this massive investigation about the 3 murders, obviously. And then there's somebody called Brendan Foy. He's CID at Basildon. And at this point, it's all about this car. And she continues to say then here that there was something wrong with the car. And there's a lady who had to check the registration. And what I'd done is drive it back round to the bungalow. I wasn't living there. I drove it back round there and parked it there and left it on the driveway. And then it was just left there waiting for the police to come round. I think the police squad or whatever it was came round to check it over. And she says it was there for weeks. It was on the driveway for weeks and no one came to see it. And Mick Steele said to me, you know about, have you got the logbook for the car? I said, no, I'm waiting for the police to come and see it. I was actually selling the bungalow, so it's absolutely way past the murders now. I think Mick said to me, a friend of his wanted a car, I think for spares or whatever, and he'd give me £400 for it. So I didn't have any money. I said, yes, okay. So she sold the car to Mick Steele there. Now, she sold it because the police said they were going to come around and check it over, but they didn't. But then, as it goes, a little bit later, they do turn up and they're pissed off with Sarah because they told her not to do anything with that car. So just for the record there, look, she's saying and she's admitting that she's still using the bungalow. She's still using Pat's bungalow. She's not living there. Pat's dead, right? And she's still using the car and she's still using the driveway of that bungalow after the killings, which is all fair enough because it's her bungalow. It's all in her name. There's nothing wrong with that. The whole thing with this going and getting the car and then driving it and still using the bungalow, that's all irrelevant because it's all her property. But this car is robbed. It's nicked. It's not taxed. It's not MOT'd, and she's been using it. So as we've just learned, Mick Steele then comes along and buys it off her for 400 quid. So Mick Steele has bought a stolen car off her for 400 quid and taken it away. Okay, so moving away from that, that's all gone from Sarah's possession. It's now in Mick's possession. So where would it go from there? It was interesting, just these minor details. It's all part and parcel of this Essex Boys case. It's interesting, if nothing else. It actually ended up with Peter Corry. This tiny bit that we saw in yesterday's video is from Peter Corry's first statement. He was after he was arrested for this drug smuggling, and it goes on about this Volkswagen GTI Golf. You've got to read the words pretty carefully with this bit here. He says, it's been mentioned lately as well, this Russell Tate is always connected to Pat Tate. And it happens a lot with Russell Tate. Whenever they're talking about Russell Tate, no matter what it is about him, they always relate it back to him being Pat Tate, who was shot in Rettendon, part of this Rettendon murders thing. But this bit here says, I went to his house and I removed a vehicle from the driveway, and that was a Mercedes, which is now in Russell Tate's possession. But going on, he also had possession of this Volkswagen that you've now got. And I come across this. This is quite interesting. DC Bates here says, I'm sure I'm right in saying that it was parked at the time when I went to his house, a short period of time after his murder, and he was murdered on the Friday night. I would have to assume and suggest that that's a slip of the tongue. Nobody would be that stupid to even think that Pat Tate was killed on a Friday night. It is interesting if you side with the theory that there was a police cover-up, though. How they were killed on a Friday night just goes over my head. It's got to be a slip of the tongue. It's my own personal opinion, of course. You might think otherwise. But whilst we're here, it's very interesting that Russell Tate is surfacing in Belgium. Look, his phone numbers is going on in Peter Corrys' statement, talking about Russell Tate and how both of his phones start registering in Belgium. And if you remember, in the Dutch firm, this is what Nichols, Mick, apparently Jack, Franny Reed, Peter Corry do, and this is where they go. You know, they go to Belgium. They go from Harwich to Amsterdam. They go and see John Stone, and then they work their way down to Belgium, where they load all the gear onto the boat there when it goes back across the channel in the inflatable. Russell Tate's phone numbers here are surfacing in Belgium, which states, doesn't it? It's a statement that says that Russell Tate was also involved in these smuggling operations. It would suggest he was involved in there. He's in Belgium, and you know, the only time we hear of Belgium is when they're drug smuggling. So it would just insist, wouldn't it? It would just it makes you it's insistent that this is what they're doing. This is exactly what they're doing. And Russell Tate was always involved. You see, we don't hear much of Russell Tate in and around the times of the murders, do we? But it would just suggest, because he's now started surfacing in there, we've got record of him surfacing in Belgium, that he was also always involved. So, you know, it just paints that bigger picture, doesn't it? There's two Tates who are drug dealing and drug smuggling. It just gets the mind triggering, doesn't it? Just gets the mind flicking a little bit. I've got to admit, guys, I'm getting a bit worried about these details. I don't know why. Maybe it's because this is brand new and I haven't seen this before. And now there's another introduction of someone else. You know, Russell Tate. It seems that he was involved. This man is involved in this massive drug ring. Now, you know, I don't want to mess with any of these people. That's not the intention. I don't want to be dragging things up. Apparently I'm just talking about this, but I keep getting spooked with these things. These aren't the right people to be talking about. You know what I mean? I keep getting this voice in my head like, who the fuck are you to be talking about these people? You know what I'm saying? The answer to that is I'm a nobody. I'm just a fan of this story, and I'm sharing what I'm seeing here. You know what I mean? That's it. And that's legal. I'm not doing it in a slanderous way. I'm not trying to cause any shit here. I'm just talking about the other details that people seem to be missing out in the films and the books. And you know, there are there's another side to this. And I keep having to remind myself that it is all on the basis that if Mick and Jack are innocent, you know what I mean? If they're innocent, what happened? That's the concept. But I keep getting just dragged into this drama that actually does involve other people, and it's a proper drama because it's gangster type. It's proper. These are main gangsters. These are £100 million worth of cocaine. They're not just some stupid little thing. And it makes me feel a little bit stupid because I suppose I'm trying to pass it off in a way that it is just some stupid little thing, and it's alright to talk about this. Yeah, don't worry about it. But it isn't. You know what I mean? Dragging it up. That's what I'm sensing I'm personally doing. I'm dragging it all back up. Shut up. It was fucking all those many times ago. Whatever's happened has happened. Get over it. See, even this Volkswagen Golf, I know it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And you know, I honestly, I'm not stupid. I'm not dense enough to think that I'm not doing anything wrong. I know I'm not doing anything wrong, but it's just that I'm trying to make these smaller details, these nothings, something. Does that make sense? And I've got issues with talking about people I don't know. But I don't know anything about Peter Corry or Russell Tate, apart from Russell Tate's in prison at the moment for drug dealing. But even saying that, you know, it just seems wrong for some reason. My disclaimer is that, you know, none of this should be taken as the truth. I'm not doing it to try and spread. I'm doing it in the name of interest and entertainment, and, you know, people are interested in this story. I too am, and these are the details of it, aren't they? Only, I suppose, that's all they are. They're just details of something that happened back then. I just get a little bit spooked sometimes, you know. I just need you to know that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Please do take good care of yourselves.